All right. Hey, hi, Khushi. Uh, Thank you so much for doing the coolest podcast in Columbia Business School. Today, I'm really excited to learn from you more about your IB recruiting journey. Uh, I'm really excited to have you here because I saw your journey from the outside, and I remember you were one of the first people to get an offer, uh, and that too on the West Coast. So we were all so excited for you. And then you told me you'll give me a treat at Bastion, which, yeah, you booked the table, but yeah, never mind. And what I really like about talking to you, Khushi, is that whenever we've spoken, you've always been very data driven. I remember I was asking you about how maybe my girlfriend can come to the US after doing an Indian MBA. I don't know if you remember this. And then you sent me like a 4-minute voice note with so much data and stats. I was like, okay, I did expect that. So yeah, really excited for first years to get to know more about your journey. And yeah, this video I think is useful for anybody who's looking to recruit for investment banking. We'll go deep into uh, coffee chats, resume, more about the industry, the interview itself, and take learnings from you. So, yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Shubham. It means a lot of you for doing this. It takes a lot when you're not not feeling as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, hope you
you
get
know,
well soon.
I was not
But
feeling well, but I realized it's fitting for an IB podcast that you push yourself and do it.
oh my God, that is so fitting. That actually makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, so Khushi, just to start with, I was curious if like you can tell us more about your early days in the first year, like maybe that period, first week of business school. What I remember was that it was a bit shocking, to be honest, that we had to take a decision so soon if we want to do banking or consulting. Like that was something I was not prepared for. So I was curious from then to now, what has been more of the process for you? Uh, just to get our audience a taste of what is the timeline and process like for investment banking.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, for me as well, I think it was tough to see that as soon as you're in business school, you think that, oh, now the life is going to be like very chill. You'll just go out
Yeah.
with friends, hang out, come back, and do that same thing over and over again. But
Yeah.
as soon as you join, you're hit with this recruitment thing, which you have to like plan the internship that you're going to do next year at this point.
Yeah.
So it's quite accelerated. For me also, it was difficult to choose investment banking because I was coming from an analyst investment banking work experience. And then I
Okay.
wasn't sure if I wanted to like explore by doing other things during my internship or just go for
Hmm.
IB route. So it was definitely tough, but being an internationals, it comes with its own sort of
Yeah.
disadvantages.
Yeah.
So it's difficult for you to like just go out there and explore during your internship days.
Yeah.
So it was made ample clear to me by my seniors and mentors that I had found during the business school, and it's
Yeah.
very important to as well is what my advice would be to the first years to find the mentors as soon as possible. So
Okay.
the advice from them helped me like just focus on banking because you have to have a foot in the door to like stay for a longer period of time in the US maybe, and then
Hmm.
try to explore things
Hmm.
based on like the visa situations and things like that. So that was made ample clear to me at the very start. And once that was made clear, I was like, okay, now I have to give in my all to the process. And then
Yeah.
Columbia's investment banking club is great. It is one of the
Okay.
best out of all the M7 schools. So that
Yeah.
also gave me a lot of like, yeah, a lot of people gave me positive feedbacks about it. So I was quite
Okay.
sure that, yeah, it is going to help me through the entire to go through the entire process in a structured manner.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I'm glad you chose IB and you've been successful. So, uh, I was curious if you have some thoughts on what are the month by month timelines or milestones in the recruiting process. So let's say first year speak to their mentors and realize IB it is. Then what are what does each month look like?
Yeah, so the firm-wide presentations where the companies start coming in, they start in first or second week of September. So before that, you have to have like your resumes ready. The resumes that
Oh,
we presented at business school is very different from what we have to present to the recruiters. So make sure that you don't like take as much creative license as you did for your applications that we did at our end. I think I used a lot of creative licensing and tried to like create a lot of more impact in my resumes, but try to be
okay.
like as objective as possible in your resumes. We can discuss more about it, but
Yeah.
resumes and cover letters have to be prepared before that. And your when the
Okay.
firm-wide presentation starts, the investment banking club or like your mentors at various schools will start helping you in the coffee chat process as well. So during
Okay.
October and November, typically you have coffee chats, like the first or second coffee chats. Few banks have more than a couple of coffee chats. It could go up to like five or six for a few banks. So
Okay.
you keep having coffee chats. We can discuss more of what a coffee chat entails.
Yeah.
But you do that in like October and November. And for the New York processes, you have invite only events ending somewhere around the first week of December, where the invite onlys are there and you are expecting first round interviews to come in. And then there's
Okay.
this winter break that takes place from like 25th of December to the 1st of January, where nothing happens. It's more of a blackout period.
Okay.
And finally, in the first week of January, you get the first round interviews, and
Hmm.
right after that, you get the super days. And then that you might be super daying with more than a couple of banks, so you go one after the other. Most of the time,
Okay.
so the New York, the banks would come in our school campus, Columbia's campus, to interview
Okay.
you for one last time,
Yeah.
and then finally rank the banks based on who you think, like sort of a game theory, who you think will be ranking you the first, or like who you like the most. And then
Okay.
finally the system happens, which is like a completely AI driven technique. No AI has been used in this thing, but it's basically a tech thing that Columbia has been using, and a lot of other
Okay.
M7 schools, to match you to banks. And then finally you get an offer and you accept it, and then you just come back to India and chill.
Wow, that's yeah, it just reminded me of all of these things in the first year. I was looking at it from the outside, and yeah, the tension of the super day and seeing you all in suits every day, that was a sight
Yeah.
to behold. In fact, even my roommate did investment banking. So he used to text me that you don't dare make any noise in the house right now, or
Yeah.
we are probably not going to be roommates anymore. And I tried to handle that. Yeah, I think I would love to focus more on, since this is early days for the first years, maybe what caught my eye was you said right now the focus, like sitting in end of August, should be that when the firms come on campus, by then you need to have your resume and cover letter ready. Like, would you say that should be the focus right now? And since the company-wide presentations are so soon, I think would love to get your thought on what that looks like and how can you make the most of it. So, yeah, your thoughts on the company-wide presentation, and then maybe we can dive deeper into the resume and cover letter.
Yes, I think a few things that you need to be like have clarity before you go for a coffee chat, or
Okay.
even like a firm-wide presentation is the sectors that you want to recruit within a bank. So
Okay.
that is one thing that you need to be clear about, or like self-aware about, apart from like the tangible aspects of resume and cover letter. So a
Okay.
lot of people, what they do is that they might have like a tech background, or they might have worked with financial institutions as
Hmm.
consultants, or whatever kind of background they have. They use that to choose a particular sector, or
Right.
it can be completely unrelated and they just want to learn more about the sector, or that sector basically interests them, and that's why
Hmm.
they want to do it. But you definitely have to have a story that you could maybe build
Hmm.
around later and use that in the coffee chat. So
Hmm.
sector is one thing which is important, because when the bankers fly down here from various regions, or like from their
Hmm.
offices, they come down for the firm-wide presentation, you would want to interact with the people who are working in that sector so that you can learn more
Hmm.
about that sector. Of course, it makes sense to like know about other sectors as well, but first and foremost, when they're like, okay, now the networking begins,
Right.
And now you can go ahead and like talk to people. The first person you who might want to go and speak to is the sector that you're interested in. So
Okay.
I think that is something that you need to be clear about. And
Mm.
what happens in a firm-wide presentation is that a company will come in, they'll present themselves, what they have done in the last year, how their
Mm.
bank is the
The
doing the most
best.
amount of deals on the street. Yeah, it
Okay.
has to be in the top three. Like any bank, it has to be in the top three. Top
Okay.
three. I don't know
Okay.
what thing they use, but they that somehow or the other they're always in the top three. So so
Yeah.
you they present themselves, and then it's on us for us networking then takes place. So we go on like asking questions. We stand in circles and we go on asking questions from the bankers about their experience.
Right.
That too is a little stressful because you're like 10 people around one banker trying to
Right.
ask and questions and make an impact. And
Yeah.
then, of course, the banker would not remember you or would not have like a
Mm.
takeaway about you as a person that, oh, this person should be recruited in my bank or something.
Yeah.
I think in the firm wide presentations, the main idea is just not to like stand out. I think that might also
Mm.
be a thing that all the consultants also say in there. You do not have to stand out. You just have to be
Okay.
that one person who asks a question that you are actually intrigued about. Just be as authentic as possible. You do not
Right.
have to be the smartest person in the room. You do not
Yeah.
have to ask the most intelligent question.
Yeah.
Just ask whatever you think is important, should be asked to the banker, and might not have been asked till now. So you just ask those questions as much as you get time. Don't try to like keep asking, because that has happened in all banker circles where there's this one person from, and especially like if there are more schools, there's this one person from some other school who just keeps asking question one out of the other without caring for others. And then
Right.
that person is someone who's like standing out, and that person is someone that the banker will take a note of and say that this person does not fit culturally in the bank. So like
Okay.
just so yeah, it's just to basically network, gather as much information as possible from people, get to know them more, but not create a major impact as well. So it's just a hygiene, mostly the firmware and nothing else.
Okay, so that's very helpful. Just to summarize, this is one thing I didn't know about. So before going for the company-wide presentation, you should have some story about the sector that you're interested in, so that you focus on that sector. And then once, like you said, the networking begins, then you go to each person, you're in circles, and you try to, again, just not stand out, but ask a good logical question. Okay, that's very interesting. Any, like, I know we discussed this a bit, but any other, basic hygiene factors of these company firm wide? Like, I know there's the dress code, which you have to follow to the T. I also remember you used to write thank you notes after the presentation. Uh, so what are some other tick marks that you can think of apart from these two?
Yeah, I think definitely the dress code, the way the major thing that I pointed out, don't speak, like just keep asking questions just to make an impact. Don't do that. One question
Yeah,
in a banker circle is enough. A lot
yeah,
of times I used to be there just waiting for the other person to finish, because the banker, so if the banker is speaking more, it means that he's having a good time. So let them speak.
yeah,
It's okay
right,
to not like just keep like just to ask a question. It is not important. Just
yeah,
keep listening in. And then other hygiene factors, definitely sending thank you notes, very
mm,
important. But also remembering the position of that person. So if there's a
mm,
partner basically who you spoke with, then there's no point sending him thank you note, because he's anyway his inbox is being filled with a lot of other things. But if that's an
okay,
associate you have interacted with, or if it's like an analyst that you've interacted with, it makes sense to send them a thank you note, because that makes sense. So a partner will definitely not even like remember you, because there's so many things going on at the same point. They have deals
okay,
to, they have like, they're very busy.
yeah,
So also remember who you are sending thank you notes to.
okay,
And then thank you notes, of course, like use chat GPT,
yeah,
but don't make it evident.
yeah,
um a lot of people use like I apostrophe M, like try to not use that,
okay,
try to like sound authentic, because um, if it's very evident that it's chat GPT, it doesn't like appeal to people.
yeah,
So just try to avoid that. Yeah, and it should just be brief. Thank you note at the end of the
yeah,
day. Don't like write 5 lines, 7 lines, a paragraph or something. Just be
yeah.
thankful that they came in and interacted with you and you had a good conversation. I think that's That's about it.
Very interesting. So I think the common theme is just to keep it simple. I'm
Yeah.
surprised that so if you spoke to a partner, you wouldn't send any thank you notes to them.
Yeah, I mean, you could send thank you notes if you
Okay.
have had a 30-minute conversation with a partner and you really liked
Okay.
him or something,
Okay.
and it was extremely meaningful. But
Yeah.
if it was mostly a partner telling everyone about their experience and you were the ones just standing in a circle of 10 people, doesn't make sense to like send a thank you note because that's just literally just spamming. So
Okay.
that's what like the gut feeling that I followed throughout.
Hmm.
And of course, like one thing I did not point out, don't drink a lot. Of course, there'll be a lot of alcohol and like
Okay.
served to you,
Yeah.
and like unlimited amounts, so you can go and like just take it from the bar whenever you want, but just
Yeah.
like not drink a lot. There have been cases where people have been extremely drunk and then they've acted weirdly in the firmwide presentations. So yeah, just to carry it there.
All right. Perfect. Uh, I was wondering if now we can dive deeper into the resume, especially. I was interested when I heard that it should be different from your MBA resume. Uh, so I know that you've collated a few points from your resume that maybe we can just talk over them. You can talk over your thinking so that for people who are making their resume right now, they can take some best practices, inspiration. Do you think we can do that?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, sure. I'll just share my
Perfect.
screen. Yeah, let me know if you can see it.
Yes, yes, I can.
Yes. So my idea of building the resume was like for each pointer, just try to answer what, why, and so questions. So is a bit different because
Okay.
for me, I feel like so creates an impact. Of
Yeah.
like it basically points you towards an impact that you made on the firm. So you did something. So what? Like, how did it help the firm in general? So if you could add that thing as well in each of the pointers, it makes sense. So for example, in the first one, in the first bullet,
Yeah.
I built an extensive credit risk memo of 1.9 billion for a 1.9 billion revenue company. So what is clear? What did I do is clear. Why
Okay.
did I do it? It says that the company is looking to raise 250 million as a part of its revolving credit facility. So it wanted money, which is
Okay.
clear. So what I did, why I did is clear. Finally, what impact did it make on Deutsche Bank in general? So it we attained timely approvals from the leverage finance team, and it helped them secure a role as a key lender. So basically, DB was chosen as one of the key lenders for this project. So just like answering, I think these three
Hmm.
questions of what, why, and so can help make to help like basically it can help the bullet be more impactful and
Yeah.
also answer all the basic questions at the same time so that you don't lose out on the like keeping it brief basically. So that's what I
Hmm.
followed. Other than that, I think yeah, following CBS format is a must.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think ChatGPT really helps here to make all the pointers better, more crisp.
Right.
Uh, i- in general, I just feel like for a banking resume, it's important if like few things or skills that you would want to point out throughout your resume is that you're analytical,
Right.
you're capable of taking responsibilities and you've taken responsibilities in the past.
Right.
Uh, you have shown progress. So if you have had promotions, definitely point them out. And if that have been accelerated and stuff like that, definitely point that out.
Right.
Analytical and quantitative skills is like they come in one.
Hmm.
And then and yeah, and finally, don't overarch on things like especially at junior roles because after 5 6 years of work experience, I just feel like you aren't like there as one of the senior leadership people. So don't overarch on pointers. That's what I did in my applications, to be honest. And I
Hmm.
wanted to keep the pointers as modest as possible, impactful but modest, because I knew,
Hmm.
especially for banking, they would know what all these things are, and they would ask me questions on how did you do this,
Hmm.
and so just try to be authentic. Don't overarch on all these pointers that like or the impactful things that you did.
Hmm. That's super helpful. And I think I observed that every bullet of yours is following the same structure. Like you start with the what, then you talk about the why, and you end it with impact. So I think that
Yep.
also makes it a bit easy to read. And I really like the fact that you pointed out what are the things they're looking at. So, analytical or quantitative skills, high responsibility, and showing the promotions. So, I think those are some things you pointed at. I'm just curious, Khushi. So, in September, you give this resume during the firm-wide presentation. So, is that your final resume, or can you continue to, because the final interview is in Jan, right? So, is this like once
Yep.
and for all? And if you know, broadly out of resume, cover letter, these coffee chats, uh, do you know what the broad weightage is? Like, I know it's a bit of a black box. If you don't, that's okay. But curious what you've heard.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I'll just stop sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, you can keep making updates to your resume, because a lot of
Okay.
time what happens is one resume is given to the resume book, uh, which IBC has a deadline of. So, for
Okay.
example, of September, they'll say that now you have to submit your resume as for the resume book, and you submit that. So that
Hmm.
is done. But overall, in the application processes, what happens is that you have to go online on every bank's portal and add
Okay.
your resume. And when you add that, it doesn't have to be the exact same thing that you have given into the resume book.
Okay.
People, you keep getting feedbacks and stuff like that. It has
Hmm.
happened in the past that a person has gone to the coffee chat, the analyst or the associate who was taking the coffee chat, it should be an associate, I think. He looked at the resume and is like, this point is missing, this point doesn't have like a comma, this doesn't have full stop, this has been spelled wrong. So basically, it has happened in the past that
Okay.
in a coffee chat, people with the resume that person has carried, he or she has been pointed out mistakes, and of course, they go back, they make changes, and
Yeah.
then they build on that. So that has also happened. So it's fine. Like, you can keep making
Yeah.
iterations. But for the resume book, which usually goes to the West Coast,
Okay.
for banks that want to do a resume card, but a lot
Hmm.
of banks, they don't do a resume card. A resume is just like a paper they use to like make conversations. So
Okay.
it's not that they're looking at the resume and they'll be like, only these 20 people are getting coffee chats and not others. A few banks do
Okay.
that, but most banks, they don't do that.
Okay. So then everybody who applies with their resume, most of them will get invites to coffee chats. And that's interesting. That's interesting. Because in tech, it was completely different. Like in tech, it was all resume based. So,
Yes.
uh, but then coming back to that question, so they're doing the resume check, they're seeing your vibe in the company-wide presentation, they're doing coffee chats with you. Like, what do you think? How do they finally decide who to, shortlist? Like, I'm just wondering from a first year's point of view, who's maybe right now trying to prioritize things, uh, like what would your advice be amongst all of these
Yeah.
things in the prep?
Yes. So I think just focusing on what is important at uh, on a timeline basis is important.
Hmm.
So, for example, as we discussed, like right now, getting the resume locked in is important. You
Right.
wouldn't want any iterations to be once the resume is done, because once the resume is done, you start prioritizing other things like your story, like the coffee chat, like
Yeah.
how you're going to present yourself in front of the bankers.
Yeah.
So, just prioritizing things at that point is important, and then locking them in. So, for example,
Hmm.
I did not do any iteration in my resume once it was locked in and it went to the resume book.
Oh, okay.
Nothing was changed.
Hmm.
So just try to like keep like looking at your resume from fresh pair of eyes every day, so that you
Hmm.
have like nothing more changes to be done, and try to get as many reviews done from your seniors or peers, so
Hmm.
that if if someone reads your resume, a layman can also like understand what you did in your work. So just try to build it from that point of view. And then weightage wise, sorry, forgot to answer the question. Weightage wise, resume, I don't think has a lot of weightage in the sense of how it
Oh,
has been done. Your work experience definitely will have might have a weightage,
hmm.
but I don't think it has a lot of weightage. Resume is just like a hygiene check. If you have
Okay.
spelling errors, in that, then of course the person will think that you haven't put in enough effort, and then
Yeah.
basic hygiene is not met.
Yeah.
So in banking, that is what I feel is being what resume means. And
Yeah.
then coffee chats mean a lot. Like coffee chats, your interactions with the bankers, they decide whether or not they will connect you to the next person. And if they don't
Okay.
connect you to the next person, it means that you're cut from that bank. And you're, of course, not going to get any interviews, etc. So I think
Yeah.
coffee chats definitely have a lot of weightage. But in the coffee chat, if a person is discussing that you have a spelling error in your resume, then it completely depends on the person if they want to like connect you with the next
Yeah.
person
Yeah.
or not. Yeah.
Great. So I think this is a great time to just summarize the resume part. So get it ready by early September for the resume book. Uh, like you said, answer the what, why, and so. Show your analytical skills and promotions, if any, and try to get as many different pairs of eyes on the resume. So from second years or from CMC advisors or your even your classmates. I think, yeah, this should be the focus early on. And now we can transition to the coffee chat process. So, uh, again, I want to keep it like an open question for you, for somebody who's looking to prepare for a coffee chat. Like maybe we can touch upon balancing between the behavioral and analytical questions, or like how does one, put their best foot forward for the coffee chat itself?
Yeah, I think coffee chats one of the most important parts of
Yeah,
the investment banking process.
yeah,
And it's a two-way street because you get to know because of course the bank is getting to know you,
yeah,
but you are also getting to know the bank and the kind of people there are.
yeah.
So it's definitely a two-way street, but in a coffee chat prep, I think there are three or four things that are important and should
Okay.
be like taken care of. Firstly is why banking, answering questions of like why you want to do banking.
Hmm.
And what was it in the role that you were doing earlier, which is different from banking and why you want to transition. So that story should be clear. Then
Hmm.
the story about the sector should be clear. If you want to do a particular sector like I did tech, why
Hmm.
you want to do tech and why you're so interested in it.
Hmm.
So why banking, why tech, and then finally why that particular bank.
Hmm.
Now that is very interesting, but answers to those questions are something that you would look forward on taking notes at firm-wide presentations
Hmm.
because bank speaks about themselves differently. They define themselves differently.
Hmm.
They have different kind of structures that is being followed at various levels. So a JP Morgan, how a team is structured at JP Morgan is very different from Barclays.
Okay.
How a process is done at Barclays is very different from JPM. So those are the type of questions that you would also want to ask to the
Hmm.
bankers when you're standing in those circles, and you use those answers in your coffee chat to basically define how that bank is different and how you are more aligned to that bank. Of course,
Hmm.
it's mostly like selling yourself and like because the bankers also know you're going to like five other banks and saying the same thing
Yeah.
that like me because you're more aligned with me.
Yeah.
But if you say that with conviction, it's fine. Like that is what the bankers are also doing when they're selling a company to five people together in a process.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so it's a real life it's a
Yeah.
real life lesson. So that's what it is. And so answering I think these three or four questions and having a story ready for a coffee chat is very important. When
Hmm.
it comes to like behavioral or technical questions, it completely depends on the bank and the banker of like
Okay.
what coffee, who is taking the coffee chat. I heard like at a few firms, a banker in the first round of coffee chats straight up asked technical questions and nothing else.
Damn.
And then
Yeah.
in coffee chats, no technical questions were asked, only
Hmm.
behavioral questions. Why you want to do banking? What do you like to do outside of work?
Hmm.
How was your previous role? How is CBS? Because a lot of times you will be connected with people who did their MBA from Columbia Business School
Right.
to like ease you in the coffee chat process, which is very helpful because then you keep discussing things that you did in college.
Yeah.
So I think first round of coffee chats are not as tough for most of the banks. Most of the
Hmm.
banks can be brutal. Other banks will be brutal as well because, especially for banks that like do one coffee chat. Like for Evercore, where I interned, I did one coffee chat, and that
Oh,
decided whether I'm going to get an interview or not. Yeah,
throughout the process, just one.
throughout the process, I did one coffee chat. Yes.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah. So it's very like different and varied between all the banks. But mostly,
Yeah.
if you have these three, four questions prepared, I think you're set.
That's perfect. So since the coffee chat is so important, I'm trying to wonder if I was recruiting, what my process would be. So first would be to maybe get a universe of questions that these are all the questions that have been asked in the past, behavioral and technical, which I'm sure these schools would have. And then I would love for you to double click on actually preparing the answer as well, like for why banking, why this sector, why this bank, etc. Uh, like starting from a blank slate is, what's the process like? Are you again taking help from second years, from Chat GPT? How are you structuring the answer? And what would be your advice for somebody who's just starting their prep to prepare these answers for the coffee chats?
Yeah. So I think definitely like taking help from like seniors and mentors if the story looks fine.
Hmm.
And of course, like the CMC people are always there to help. So the story should fit in. And I think it also depends on your interest. So if you're really interested in like financial institutions per se, and you have been working with a lot of financial institutions clients and things like that, and you have seen uh, monumental changes that have been happening in that sector, you are
Right.
interested in working on those. So why that sector is clear because your passion lies there. You have interacted with people from that sector, you've worked with them, and you want to basically get in a more impactful role in helping them raise funds or like helping the
Hmm.
companies raise funds and things like that. Why banking is mostly clicking on those attributes of banking that were missing in your previous role, but you're going to basically get those attributes or skills developed in your current role in banking. So if it wasn't a client facing role, if it was a back office, you get clients
Hmm.
exposure here.
Hmm.
If it was more of like a not a lot of analytical role, you want to move to a more analytical role
Hmm.
because you feel more aligned over there. If
Hmm.
you want, like there were no numbers that were being used, it was more qualitative, you want to like basically touch on those aspects. So
Right.
basically just bridge the gap between what was missing in your previous role and you see like banking is better for you. That's why you want to do banking sector. As I said previously, your
Yeah.
interest lies there, you have interacted with people over there. Or it could be very personal as well. Like
Yeah.
one of my mentors in West Coast, he did healthcare banking because uh, his daughter had like a chronic illness, and
Hmm.
he went through a lot of like healthcare process and procedures that really intrigued him in the entire
Hmm.
healthcare industry, and
Yeah.
that's how he got into the healthcare. So it could be very personal as well. If
Hmm.
some person's family is into industrials,
Hmm.
does industrial work in India or something like that, then they're more inclined to do that. So it could be very personal as well.
Hmm.
And then finally, why banking is done, which sector is done, and why a particular bank.
Hmm.
That I think you'll mostly come to realize based on what core aspects do these banks distinguish themselves from others.
Right.
So, like an Evercore will say five other different things that we do differently from PGT, and PGT will
Hmm.
be like we do all these things differently in their firm-wide presentations. So you just have to like take notes of that and just say that like we are aligned with all these aspects and that's why we want to recruit here. So it's mostly that unless in the first coffee chat. Now when you go to like second or third coffee chats, you
Hmm.
start name dropping people because you've interacted with them in networking
Hmm.
sessions. They have actually become your mentors. So you say that I like the people over here and that's why I wanted to do
Hmm.
like a banking internship here. So those aspects of why bank they keep building on throughout the process, but others are something that you have to have clarity before going into a coffee chat.
Very interesting. Thank you, Khushi. I was wondering if you have any stories that come to mind, like from your coffee chats, like something that maybe, went a bit wrong or something where a banker was, really different or something you heard from your friends. And maybe a follow-up on that is if, let's say, a technical question is asked where you don't know the answer, what's the advice on navigating that? And if that's happened to someone, but they've still been successful.
Yeah. I think one of the funniest stories which happened, I think, with multiple people is that a lot of times, because in the first coffee chat, you do not have a lot of things to speak about or talk about, especially if a person is not from like Colombia and you don't have a lot of
Yeah.
things. So you directly skip to hobbies. So few people they just like wrote a few hobbies just for the sake of writing those hobbies, and they had like nothing at all they had ever done closely related to it. And then, of course, the banker starts discussing about the hobby, and then you have no clue what is to be responded. So those things happen in one of my coffee chats. I just feel like uh, I knew somewhere or the other in some of my coffee chats that the person is not liking me, and there's no way this is going to go forward. And I'm just like continuing my coffee chat for the sake of continuing. And a lot of other places, people have been told that your story looks a lot rehearsed. It looks like you have
Okay.
like read, if it looks like you're reading it from like a paper, can you please improve on it for the next time and things like. So a lot of people have been like actually very candid as well, which is
Yeah.
quite funny.
Mm.
In few of my coffee chats, people have mentioned that you're definitely going to get the final round interview, or you're definitely going to get the invite only event, uh, in the invite only invite basically, and I did not get anything. So so a lot of like negative surprises, all of those things will keep on happening with you. You just
Yeah.
have to brave it all, and you just have to believe that like all those things we have also gone through and our seniors have also gone through. It's
Yeah.
just that not a lot of people are okay sharing the vulnerabilities or the negative experiences.
Yeah.
Uh, that's what like I also want the current mentors to be like share the rejections as well, because that's
Yeah.
what gives the first confidence, and not just share like I had 7 super days, I had 8 round interviews, I had this. that
Yeah.
that that is all fine, but you have
Yeah.
been rejected by the most favorite bank in your list as well. So
Yeah.
like go ahead and share that. So
Yeah.
so yeah.
That's very funny. I remember one of my friends who's doing IB recruiting. He spoke about how much he loves the gourmet club. Like he just paid the fees for the gourmet club and said that I love going out to restaurants. But he was the last guy to do that. Like he just used that for the interview. And yeah, I think that is also sometimes important to connect at a human level. Like sometimes you make things up, but it's of course better if it's rooted in truth. But yeah, that's
Correct,
funny.
correct.
So uh, I think since you touched on this, I would love for us to talk a little bit more about community during the process. So let's say you're having your coffee chats, you're getting cut from some banks, facing some people are getting invite only events, some are not. So what is your advice on for people to build that small communities of maybe people they're mocking with or people they're sharing everything with about their journey?
Yes, I think, yeah, those things are really important
Hmm.
because it not only like helps you keep sane, but of course, like building community based on who you gel with and who you
Hmm.
can share things with, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it is a competitive process.
Hmm.
You're not getting an invite only, but some other person is getting it. So
Yeah.
that is there. But if you can like find people around you
Hmm.
who want the best for you and
Hmm.
for themselves in this process,
Hmm.
it's very important to be close to them
Okay.
and just like sharing as to what is going on, what is bothering you. I have, but of course, it's better to have people around you, but it's best to have mentors who have gone through this process,
Hmm.
because I have seen this. Like I myself have gone through this process, and I had mentors who I like could call up and like cry literally. You would say
Hmm.
that I was the first one to get offers, but I was also in that phase that I
Yeah.
I was like crying on call, thinking about a lot of random stuff which was completely out of my control.
Yeah.
So throughout this process, you become so lonely because you're going through this alone. You
Yeah.
have to be like someone has to sit you down and tell you that these are things that you cannot control, and you just focus on things which are in your control.
Yeah.
So having a community around you of seniors as well as like your peers is very important, and
Yeah.
sharing with them what you're feeling, if you're getting rejected somewhere, and just going out on a drink sometimes and just like
Mm.
sharing what you're going through is really helpful.
Yeah.
And of course, in terms of information, also you might have missed on like five things,
Yeah.
but took care of it, or took note of it at some point and sharing with you is very
Yeah.
important. So having few buddies, I know it is very important, very difficult to like have five people prepare
Yeah.
together, but have just one buddy who you're
Yeah.
walking with one after the other every day, 4 or 5 times, it really gives you confidence. And
Yeah.
you also not like get bored, because it is very easy for you to get bored
Yeah.
once you're like through technicals and everything. You're like, there's nothing to do, but there's
Yeah.
always stuff that you can improve. So I think that is very important. Yeah, yeah. I don't think I'm missing out on anything else, but that's it. Yeah.
No, I think, yeah, I'm so glad you had someone to call up and cry to. I feel like I can't think of anyone at CBS I would do that with. But I think in IB, you need that a little bit. So, yeah, I'm glad you had that. And what I love is that, like you said, CBS has a great IBC community. So I'm sure you will pay it forward and, it's going to continue. So that's great. Uh, so I think a couple of more things I want to touch on. One is now that you're done with the coffee chat and hopefully you get the interview. So any advice on, but this coffee chat also seems like an interview, to be honest, based on what I heard so far. So what is that interview process itself like, if you have any advice on that? And then after that, I also wanted to actually talk about what if you don't succeed in the process at all? What have people done parallelly or done January onwards? What have you seen people do to get other roles? But yeah, first, would love to know more about the interview, and also maybe if there's something about the invite only events which is different. If you think it's the same as before, company wide, like we can skip over that. But yeah, curious about the next step, the invite only and the interviews.
Yes, sure. So after the coffee chats, the number of coffee chats could be anywhere between like 2 to 8, uh,
Oh,
depending on the bank.
okay.
Yeah, depending on the bank. In a lot of coffee chats, also you're asked a lot of technical questions. So at a
Yeah.
third or fourth coffee chat, you would feel like, okay, now my Y banking, Y bank, all
Hmm.
those things have been approved by the people who are like at a lower level, and now you're going to speak with the VP, and then he might ask you, what is a DCF, how do you
Hmm.
bridge and EBITDA to an FCF and stuff like that. So you have to be like well prepared for
Hmm.
all those in the last rounds of coffee chats.
Hmm.
So I think breaking into Wall Street is one thing, and other resources that are shared
Hmm.
by the Investment Banking Club are more than enough for you
Okay.
to get on top of all these. Um, yeah, there are enough and more resources that are available,
Hmm.
that help you for all those coffee chats. And then in your first round interviews, before your first round interviews, the invite only events happen. The invite only events are nothing but a way of the bank communicating to you that they like you,
Okay.
and they like you more than anyone else. And the people who are not called to the invite only events are mostly cut.
Okay.
So the ones who are yeah, the ones who are called to the invite only events are the ones who are going to get the first round interviews mostly.
Okay.
So they just take you for like a dinner or stuff like that. So that happens. And then after the invite only events, the first round happens. And the first round is usually like they have like 5 questions on technical and 5 questions on behavioral. And they'll sometimes they ask the same 10 questions to all the first round people who are giving the first round interviews. And then
Okay.
you go in. Yeah, so it's basically evaluative in the sense that they want to evaluate each person by giving them the same kind of questions. It could
Hmm.
definitely be different on based
Hmm.
on the banks, but what I have experienced is that mostly the same questions asked to like all the 5 people that go to the first round interviews, or like the 6 people. And then after the first round interviews happen, which are technical and behavioral at the same time, um, the super days take place. Super days is another kind of a first round interview, but then at this point of super day, you should be very clear on how you communicate about ranking the bank.
Okay.
Various actually that you're in the process of, and you have to be very clear about will you accept the offer if it is given to you right now and stuff like that. Like all those complicated questions, you have to be
Okay.
very clear about your super days. So
Hmm.
that's what I think is the real difference between the super day and the first round interview.
Yeah.
Super days also, like the banks try to test whether or not you'll come to that bank, because banks want their first preference. All the
Hmm.
people that have in their first few numbers, they want them to accept the offer. So that's what like the super days are about. But throughout, of course, it is also that you are getting to learn about more about the people and the culture in that firm. So you also have to like sometimes look at the process from an evaluative lens as to where do you want to go.
Okay. Hmm.
And between all these things, as you touched about people who do not like get an IB
Yeah.
offer, between things, I think at invite only stage is a point where you know whether or not you're doing well in the process. So
Okay.
a lot of people, and depending on how many invite onlys do people around you have and how many you have, um, if you think that you do not have enough invite only events, it means that you're not doing as well, or like you're doing below average in terms of the process, and your chances of ending up with an offer is mostly depending on luck rather than anything else. So at that point, I would
Hmm.
suggest that you should like start doing resume drops. In any case, resume drops is something that you should do anyway. I think for
Hmm.
consulting, also I did resume drops for consulting, and I think a lot
Okay.
of other people. So consulting you do, I did for Middle East offices. So you decide your own thing, but definitely do like resume drops then. And then for tech also start preparing a resume, because as you said, for your tech thing, the resume is everything.
Yeah.
So like start preparing resume as well based on like the tech firms, and keep applying, because I know a
Yeah.
lot of people who had the banking interviews and super days, they also had like Amazon corp dev roles interviews in
Right.
January. So yeah, it's important to parallel path as much as you think that you're doing well in the process. You never know.
Hmm.
So I just feel like at invite only are one point where you know whether or not you're faring well or not, and then you decide accordingly.
Yeah, I think you're just like it's really practical, right? That by invite at that invite only stage, like I know you've given it so much, and if you're not getting the results, like you might like it's devastating. But then just looking at it practically, that okay, maybe is not going to work out. So then I should start working on other things as well. So, and yeah, we know so many people who like were doing IB but then did consulting resume drops and are now like consultants. So, like, why not? I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think this has been really helpful, Kushi. I wanted to spend some time on how your internship itself was, because like we were discussing before this call, like I know we heard that work-life balance is tough and it's long work hours, but when I actually saw our friends going through the summer, like remember seeing some people's Apple watches, it said like 4 hours a night of sleep. Like that's a fact. You can't really dispute that. So I think my point is that like it's still early for students. So what would you say for someone who's like, what are the cautionary advice you would give someone? Like, how is it that someone is able to work so hard? I imagine it can't all be money. Like, there has to be some passion. So, like, what's your take on that? Because I also know anecdotally that some people did it over the summer and they were like, oh, I actually can't do this. So now they're going to re-recruit. So, how do we ensure that people are taking the right decision, and yeah, any thoughts on that?
Yes, I think, yeah, I have a lot of respect for the occupation, for this
Yeah,
profession. But at
yeah,
the same time, I am being completely honest, it is extremely demanding.
yeah.
And that you experience in like during an internship itself. But at the same time, you have to make this job sustainable. And in my
Hmm,
internship days as well, I tried to be as efficient as possible. But there were days where it was stretched till 3 or 4 a.m. because it is not in your control. The client is
hmm,
asking for something the next day, then you have to like be efficient.
Yeah.
about things and like deliver it on time because it's a client facing role.
Yeah.
So that is there. But if you're the kind of person who gets frustrated when he or she is being asked to like arrange logos at 1 in the night, then this job is not for you. Like
Yeah.
out in the open. This is not.
Yeah.
If you think that like because I know a lot of people think that doing these menial stuff, rearranging pages, making
Yeah.
decks, this is very redundant. There is no point of like stretching yourself at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the night doing this. And there's no point of it. If you're that kind of person and you like
Yeah.
you have that thought, then this job is definitely not for you. Because you have to do all these like small menial
Yeah.
supposedly tasks to basically just be a better banker. And
Mm.
a better banker includes having attention to detail, having the
Yeah.
materials ready, but at the same time having knowledge of the industry, which
Yeah.
anyway is needed. So I just feel like all those things, if those are the things that motivate you,
Yeah.
then it's okay. But if you like get frustrated that like you took 1 hour out of the gym and then you get five pings and mails and now you in the gym, because I did that in my internship. I went to the gym for an hour in the morning and I had to attend a call in between, where I used to like I
Okay.
ran in the washroom and I took calls from the washroom. I did and I had like sent out mails from there. So there if
Yeah.
that at a cost of you being frustrated and you not liking the
Yeah.
job, that's completely understandable and you shouldn't
Right.
do it. But if you're okay with doing all that, then it's definitely rewarding, depending upon because you'll be given more responsibility at the end of the day if you
Yeah.
do all those tasks well, and you'll be given more responsibility. And as and when you progress, it will definitely like seem to be more rewarding because you will be put in front of the client depending on like how good the bank is and how good the people are around you. They'll definitely support you.
Yeah.
So in short, that is what the industry is about.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you have to be around people that like you. And my only advice to also people who are recruiting right now is that you might have like a extreme passion for a sector. You might have like you might be extremely passionate about this
Yeah.
one bank, which you feel is best on the street, and you want to get there, and you just want to
Yeah.
crack that particular bank. But if there are other people that like you more, like take that option and go there. I would just suggest
Mm.
that because in an industry like this, you want people to like you, you want
Mm.
to feel motivated, and only that kind of motivation, like the positive motivation, can help you work 14 or 16 hours a day. Otherwise, if you are firstly like fighting for deals, a bank does not have enough deals. It might have like the best brand name in the world,
Mm.
but if you're fighting with deals and you're thinking that, oh, this associate got a deal but I did not, I'm working on pitches, then that creates toxic environment. So it's
Yeah.
not the toxic comes from like a lack of something rather than anything else. And in my internship, there was no lack of deals that were happening. People have were
Mm.
swamped with work, but at the same time, they could see the impact that they were able to deliver doing that work, and they were
Yeah.
motivated enough to like work for 15, 16 hours and push for that one extra hour to deliver that work and
Yeah.
not be frustrated about it. So I think that is very important in this industry. But yeah, it can definitely be demanding.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you have to be detail oriented and like every page has to be perfect, but at the same time, you should also be able to zoom out and know about the industry. So yeah, I think, but like you said, I think you get to learn so much. It's rewarding if you're excited about by those things. Uh, so Khushi, finally, I know you're very data driven. So I wanted to know for someone who wants to do this for a few years, what are the exit options? And then we can finally just close it if you have like any other advice for, first years or people trying to get into banking. If there's anything you missed or final words of wisdom.
Yeah, sure. So exit opportunities, good topic. I think even I would want to watch more podcasts about IB exit opportunities. Just
Okay.
kidding. I think it's a brilliant platform for
Hmm.
you to for if you don't know what exactly you want to do and
Hmm.
you're interested in a particular sector, it's a brilliant platform for you to explore that sector and then go
Right.
to a particular industry in general. But mostly the exits are around, firstly they could be an industry exit where you go into a corp dev role of a particular company that you're in. interested in
Mm.
or are passionate about. Or it could be an investor relations role, or it could be like a CFO's office role, basically.
Right.
So a lot of like M&As are happening at a smaller and a larger level. All these big players are like acquiring a lot of companies. So you sit in those companies internally deciding whether or not you should invest and like take up a particular asset as a part of your company.
Yeah.
So that will basically be the corp dev and the M&A role in the industry. Then comes, of course, the much coveted PE and VC growth equity roles.
Yeah.
That's also one of the very common exits that people do after banking.
Yeah.
You want to move to the investing side. You have seen the investing roles in and out because you're working with those sponsors
Yeah.
a lot of times. So you're basically sitting on the other side of the table, which makes sense. A few uncommon but that have the roles that people have taken are related to hedge funds, moving to hedge funds, asset management, wealth management.
Okay.
People do not want to work in bigger or any teams anymore. They want to be responsible for their own tasks, and
Mm.
they're mostly in like asset management or like hedge funds, trading, and stuff like that. And they just want to focus on doing their own thing. So they exit in all these avenues. And what else? I think these are like most common exits that I can think of. Very few people go on to start their own venture as well, which
Okay.
is not common, but sometimes.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I think these are one of like few of the very common areas where like people exit out of banking.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very difficult to exit as well because they pay you so much, and then you don't want to let go of that income, or
Yeah.
you buy a lot of assets and then you have to pay EMI for those. So you just retire being a banker.
Well, I would love to see where you are 5 years from now. Maybe we like
I
reconvene and yeah, you have the golden handcuffs, or maybe you're starting a venture. But yeah, that's a very interesting take. But thank you so much, Khushi. Any final word, piece of advice, or something you'd like to reiterate to, first year IB aspirants? Or yeah, I think we can end it there. But would love to hear, something from you last time on some, like if there's one or two things someone should have a takeaway on or high priority, what would that be?
Yeah, I think the process can be extremely overwhelming.
Yeah.
Um, it might like I felt I come from a banking background. It would be easier for me,
Hmm.
and it would like I would have an advantage, but it was nothing like that. It is not easy
Okay.
for anyone because you never know what the other person is judging you based on or off. So it is going to be tough for everyone. It's just that focusing on, like I said, focusing on banks and people that like you rather than the rejections is
Yeah.
one thing that I would just like to point out to the first years. Just focus on them and try to ace that, because having a foot in the door is what is important for your internship. You should have just like have one IB
Hmm.
job. That is what I had in my mind. And at the end of the day, I did end up with like the 7 super days and like 8 rounds of interviews. But
Yeah.
having that one IB job will help you not take even like the banks that you don't feel are coveted lightly,
Yeah.
and you will give it your all for everything. So
Yeah.
just go in with that perspective and choose whenever a choice comes up, choose a bank or like people that like you more than the other way around. I
Hmm.
think that would really help you. And just keep your mentors and second years extremely close. Keep interacting with them. You
Yeah.
don't know how the networking, because US banking networking is very strong. You don't know how that might come out to be.
Hmm.
The second years from various banks might just be called one day by their associates in the New York office, and they might just be like, "Can you give us 5 names that we should like interview in the first round, or you like, or something like that?" So
Oh,
just try to network with the first year, like with the second years as well from various banks, especially the banks that you like,
yeah.
and like learn from them about the bank, basically. Yeah.
Oh, like does that actually happen? The do second years have some influence on
Uh, I wouldn't rule that out at all.
okay,
I
okay.
mean, uh, they might not have a say as to people getting rejected, but people they want to
Hmm.
support and like they want to vouch for, they're definitely asked that at some banks at least. So
Okay.
if you want like yeah, if you want a bank in particular, I wouldn't say like just go and interact with all seniors and all banks, but a few banks that you feel that a particular sector is really doing well in that bank and you want to be a part of that,
Yeah.
go and like definitely speak to that senior and show interest at least, because it shouldn't be like the senior doesn't know you at all and you are recruiting for that bank, and then he like the seniors ask them about this person and you're like, no, he never came up to me and asked me about
Yeah.
anything. So that shouldn't happen.
Okay. So then the first year should be spending more time with you, trying to get in your good books. If but yeah, thank you so much, Khushi. I think this is very helpful. Even I learned a thing or two. I wonder if in a different life I would have done IB. My
In a
my
different time, I see a lot in life as a
I
takeaway.
I don't think I think there's a lot to learn. I was actually considering it also a little bit in the beginning, but everything happened so fast. I think a part of me was like, yeah, it was just stressful to decide so quickly. So I thought I don't want to spend time. And I saw others who seemed much more prepared. So I thought, not for me this time. But yeah, great. Thank
Another
you so
life.
much. Thank you so much, bro. This was awesome. And
No, thank you so much for
yeah,
asking all pointed questions. You're giving tough competition to Nikhil Kaman, bro.
yeah. You might be flooded with LinkedIn invites now, like.
I, I would be more than happy to get some attention on LinkedIn.
Okay, cool, bro. Thank you so much. I'm gonna stop the recording.